Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak. Now let's take a look at what's making the headlines on the papers around the world this morning. Beginning with This Day, as usual. On the front page of the This Day newspaper, you have President Muhammadu Buhari proposes new amendments to the Petroleum Industry Act and nominates regulatory boards. He seeks expansion of upstream, midstream members, appoints Komolafe as CEO, URC, and retains DPRs and Walu. He also removes Petroleum Finance Ministries from the agency's boards. Now, just below that, we have banditry has transformed into insurgency. Time to eliminate them. And this is by the Katsina State Governor Aminu Bello Masari. He says the House also alleges the fleeing bandits from Katsina Zamfara attacking Kanu. And there's a picture there of the Cross River State's Governor, Professor Ben Ayade, on a visit to the widow of late General Anthony Ukpo, retired.
Well, the nation leads this morning with anti-open grazing. The paper is reporting that the Kaduna State Governor El-Rufai is attacking his counterparts from the southern region. He says they are making political law that cannot be implemented as regards the open grazing situation. Well, above the masthead of the nation this morning, a series of headlines. The Nigeria Bureau of Statistics saying Nigeria is reporting 20% of Nigerians lost their jobs to COVID-19. As President Buhari seeks removal of ministers from the NNPC Limited Board. And at the extreme right there, agency, 1.8 million fully vaccinated in Nigeria. That's the NPHCDA, the primary vaccination agency in the country. Jega, Utomi, others flout Rescue Nigeria project. Two pictures worthy of note on the front page of the nation this morning. It's first is the President Muhammadu Buhari meeting with the DG, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala in New York. And of course, the other picture worthy of note is that of the Governor of Ogun State, Dr. Abiodun, meeting with the APC stalwart who's been recently called the Capone of the southwestern Nigeria, Bola Tinubu.
Moving on to other papers, I've got the Punch newspaper right here. And on the front page of the Punch, there's a picture of Orderly Road in Port Harcourt after a downpour yesterday. It's flooded and you can see cars almost buried in it. But a major headline on the Punch, experts lament as federal government spends 20 billion naira on idle Ajokuta steel in 6 years. Nigeria borrows fresh $4 billion through Euro bonds. And President Buhari demands PIA amendment, ignores host communities' 3% agitation. Finally, from the Punch newspaper, UK employs 353 Nigerian doctors in 100 days.
All right, now moving on to the Guardian Nigerian newspaper. The top headline on the front page of the Guardian says, experts divided over the NNPC board as President Buhari writes the Senate to amend the Petroleum Industry Act. Now, Buhari proposes structure to amend the Petroleum Act of 2021, and stakeholders express disappointment and raise concerns over investors' confidence. The story can be continued on page 2. Now, the other headline here says the northern region in crisis needs help to avert Afghanistan scenario. This is by the governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasser El-Rufai, who declared only a huge investment in the country's education sector by the political leadership can avert a scenario that just happened in Afghanistan. And this can be continued on page 2 as well, the Guardian newspaper.
Let's look at the foreign newspapers now. The Daily Telegraph reports that the UK is considering joining a US-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. The Daily Telegraph, as hope fades for loan deal with America. It says Boris Johnson declined to say that a US-UK free trade deal could be reached by 2024 UK general election. Of course, it's also reporting this morning France's sit on the United Nations Security Council could be put at the disposal of the European Union if its governments back Emmanuel Macron's plan for an EU army. That's the Daily Telegraph.
We're moving now to the Independent, and right there is a picture of Denise Sedegiev, who's believed to have been on the ground when the Salisbury poisoning happened. Third Russian charged over Novichok. And the Prime Minister tells world, grow up and tackle climate crisis. Boris Johnson to criticize infantile failure to act as he addresses the United Nations.
All right, and the Daily Express here, the big headline on the front page says, Britain pushes for mega trade deal with the United States. Now, the Britain is firing up for a colossal post-Brexit deal with America, Canada, and Mexico. This story can be continued on page 4, and also on The Guardian UK, still the same headline, no deal. Prime Minister's hopes of securing trade pacts with Biden in disarray. We know the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and US President Joe Biden had a meeting on the side of the UN General Assembly. That's The Guardian.
Well, for the press review, let's bring in Emmanuel Bello, who joins us now from our offsite studio. Good morning, Emmanuel. Great to see you today. A wet Wednesday morning in the nation's capital, Abuja. But let's look at the many headlines making the front pages this morning, starting with this day. It's leading with President Buhari's proposal to the Petroleum Industry Act. What do you make of the amendments he sent to the National Assembly?
Well, the amendment itself is just to make it more effective and but in the long run, we'll be talking about how the oil sector is able to impact on the economy, especially now that we're face to face with all sorts of crises in the markets. So I guess the amendments, which are very minor ones, like, maybe major ones too, because he's asked he's dropped 2 ministers from the act that is the amendment that he's seeking. But again, a paper is reporting that he's silent about the host communities, and I think this should be more about them too, to some extent, because the biggest talk around the oil industry is how much it has actually impacted the host communities, and that has been part of the agitation. Even when the amendments were in place, host communities were beginning to ask for certain percentages and all that, though the argument would be who gets what, who doesn't get anything. But this doesn't take away from the overriding issue of the oil industry itself as it affects the country. How much has the country gained? What's the oil sector doing for the country? How are we, maximizing on profits from the oil to enhance the other sector of the economy? If this act is going to help in making that happen, well, that would be a good day for the country. But for now, a lot of people think that the oil industry has remained largely in the realm of some form of contradictions and confusions here and there, especially in its management, and how host communities in particular, maximize on the profits from their land to develop their places. And I think with what one paper is reporting that the president is silent on that, I think that would be a problem going forward, because such agitations may continue to show up in those places where host communities in particular are saying, let this oil benefit us as it benefits the rest of the country. And of course, the larger economy too, how much we're able to maximize on profits from the oil sector to develop other sectors and move forward in a very, very challenging economic time like this.
Okay, Manuel, now moving on to the Guardian newspaper. That's also talking about this Petroleum Industry Act. But another headline here says, Northern region in crisis needs help to avert Afghanistan scenario. This is Governor El-Rufai saying this, Emmanuel.
Yeah, and in another paper, El-Rufai was actually also talking about, again, it's all the crisis we've been seeing leading from last week after the southern governors, came together to take a position of a region on the VAT crisis, and also on lingering issues of power shift, and of course on the anti-grazing bill and all of that. And we see El-Rufai weighing on that strongly in another news, saying that, he doesn't think that those anti-grazing laws that a lot of southern governors are beginning to buy in and actually sign into law. He's criticizing that. But now he's also crying out again and saying that, look, unless you develop, especially the education sector of the North will become the next Afghanistan. This is El-Rufai at his best, raising a serious alarm over what's happening in the North and a whole lot of crises around the sector. The North has been in the news. At the weekend, Baba Ahmed was, criticizing the South for, trying to untwist the North. And now we're seeing El-Rufai almost in continuation of that kind of call, saying that, look, we have to do a lot for the northern region. But there are people that will also say that the North has got a lot to do for itself too, in averting some of the things that they're complaining about. El-Rufai has been governor. He's going to be governor now for 8 years. People will be looking to see what he has done in his own parts to ensure that the sort of scenario he's crying about or is alerting that could happen, that the North does not turn into the next Afghanistan. So this him calling as an individual and saying unless a lot is done in various sectors, especially in the area of the education sector, the North is in for a lot of crisis. Others are saying that even the call for the control of VAT is a wake-up call for northern states to look inwards and see what they can do with, with the economy, strengthen their own economy to ensure that they are not seen as dependent states on states that are working hard to have better VAT, and that is a wake-up call for them. So El-Rufai is probably also
Emmanuel,
speaking to that and saying something has to be done.
Okay, let's peep the front page of the Punch newspaper. Experts lament as federal government spends 20 billion naira on idle Ajaokuta steel in 6 years. Emmanuel, there's a generation of Nigerians who do not know what the Ajaokuta steel does. Your thoughts?
Yes, and it's like the Mambila hydropower project too, that has got a 50-year or so story behind it. Most, like you say, a generation of Nigerians do not even know what's happening there. What is the Mambila hydropower dam? Some kind of dead project that is in Taraba State that successive government have tried to do something about so that there will be better electricity. And Ajaokuta is almost like one of them, one of those big elephant projects that is just lying down idle there. And look at now, the figures are beginning to show how much has been spent on it, 20 billion in the last 6 years. And it is not just the only government that has tried to do something about the Ajaokuta steel. And like you say, a whole lot of people have forgotten about it. Some really gigantic, very ambitious projects started way back to revamp the economy. And if we can get Ajaokuta right, among the many other things that we try to get right in this country, honestly, things will change. But sadly, Ajaokuta has continuously remained something like a scandalous, a story in the development of the country. And now we are beginning to see a paper like Punch actually talking about the figure, talking about the amount of money that has been, spent on the Ajaokuta steel rolling mills somewhere here in Kogi State, and nothing has happened to it. It's the same story you find when you go to Mambila hydropower project and other projects around the country. So like you say, yes, generation of Nigerians might not know about it, but it's there and it has a whole lot of history behind it. But the biggest issue out of there is that it's been laying down waste there and nothing has been done about it. With all the potential it's got, that if we revive it, it can change the fortune of the economy.
Indeed.
Of the country.
Thank you so much, Manuel. Promises have been made, deadlines have been issued, and we keep our fingers crossed, even with the Buhari administration, giving us promises that Ajaokuta still will come to life once again. But thank you so much, Emmanuel Bello. That's the press review for today.